Hello and welcome to lesson 3.1. Today we're going to look at solving two-step equations. Now just as a quick review, solving two-step equations is going to involve two operations. Typically we're going to use addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division properties of equality to form equivalent equations. So when we're solving these two-step equations, your goal is always going to be to isolate the variable, which means to get it by itself, on one side, and it needs to have a coefficient of 1. If it doesn't have a coefficient of 1, that typically means that you have one more step to complete. So let's take a quick look and see what this looks like with example 1. Example 1 says, suppose you are helping to prepare a large meal. You can peel 2 carrots per minute. You need 60 peeled carrots. How long is it going to take you to finish if you have already peeled 18 carrots? So the first thing we have to do is we have to set up our equation. We know that we need a total of 60 peeled carrots, so that's going to be what my equation is set equal to, because I have to have 60 peeled carrots. We know that we've already peeled 18 carrots per this information right here. So now what I have to do is I know that we can do 2 carrots per minute. So if I have 2 carrots, I'm going to multiply that by the number of minutes that I'm going to be peeling carrots for. So I'm just going to use n for the number of minutes. So now I've come up with an equation that says 2n plus 18 equals 60. Now what I have to do is I have to get n by itself. So in order to do that, I'm going to leave the 2n piece alone, and I have to get rid of this 18. Well, 18 is being added to 2n, so to undo the addition, I'm going to subtract 18. And if I do it to one side of the equal sign, so if I go and I draw kind of like an imaginary line through here, if I do it to one side of the equal sign, I have to do it to the other. So when I subtract, my 18s are going to go away over here, and that's going to leave me with 2n equals 60 minus 18 is actually going to be 42. So now I'm a little bit closer to having n by itself, but I still have this 2 that is attached to it. So what I have to do is in my head I say, how is 2 attached to n? And in this case, it's really 2 times n. So to undo my multiplication, I'm going to divide by 2. If I divide by 2 on the left side of the equal sign, I also have to divide by 2 on the right side. So here my 2's are going to cancel out, and it's going to leave me with n. And 42 divided by 2 gives me 21. So because n is measured in minutes, I can see that it's going to take me 21 minutes to get my 60 carrots peeled if I already have 18 peeled and I can peel 2 carrots per minute. Now for example 2, our goal is still to simplify and solve for x, which means we have to get x by itself. Okay, so example 1, I can see that I have 2/5 times x equals 6. So if you want to, let's worry about getting rid of our denominators. Anytime I have a denominator, I'm going to try to get rid of that first. So what I really have is I really have 2 being divided by 5. So I want to undo that 5 first. And what's going to happen then is I'm going to undo division by multiplying both sides by 5. So if I multiply the left side by 5, I must also multiply the right side by 5. When I do that, on the left side, my 5's are going to cancel out, and I'm going to be left with this 2x. So I have 2x equals, and then 6 times 5 will give me 30. Then I'm going to have to come up here and say, well, 2 is still being attached to x, so 2 is attached to x with multiplication, because that's really 2 times x. I undo multiplication with division. So if I divide 2x by 2, then I'm going to divide the right side by 2 as well, and my 2's are going to cancel, and now I'm going to be left with x, because that's what's left right here, And 30 divided by 2 is going to give me 15. So my answer is x equals 15. Now, when I come over here to problem number 2, you can get rid of this negative 3/5 right here first if you'd like by adding it. But then I'm going to be adding a fraction and I have to get common denominators, which I can do, but sometimes that gets a little messy. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say, what is the product of my denominators here? So if I take 3 and 5 and I multiply them together, I'm going to get 15. So the reason I want to do that is because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 15. So if I have 15 times 1 divided by 3 times n minus 3/5, this is going to equal 10. But if I multiply the left side by 15, I also have to multiply the right side by 15. So now what I'm going to do is mathematically, I'm going to distribute. So I really have 15 times 1/3, and 15 times 1/3 is going to give me 15/3, or 5n. I'm going to subtract, and then I have 15 times 3/5. Well, 15 times 3/5 is actually going to give me 9. So I'm left with 5n minus 9 equals 10 times 15 will give me 150. Now this looks way simpler and I have no fractions to deal with. So now I can go ahead and go about getting my variable by itself. So now what I'm going to do is I need to undo my addition or subtraction here. So I'm going to undo my minus 9, and I'm going to do that by adding 9 to both sides. So when I do that, I have 5n, because these are going to go away, equals 159. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get n by itself, and I will do that by dividing both sides by 5. My 5s are going to cancel, and that's going to leave me with n equals 159/5, which I'm okay if you leave it like that, or you could reduce that down to 31 4/5. But as I mentioned, I am okay if you leave it like that. Now example 3 says, a music store sells a copy of a deluxe electric guitar for $295. This is $30 more than 1/3 the cost of the deluxe electric guitar it is modeled after. What is the cost of the deluxe electric guitar? So we know that our total cost is $295. So I'm going to set this equal to $295. Then I'm told that this is going to be 30 more. So that would be 30 plus 1/3 the cost. So 1/3 times the cost of whatever that original guitar or that original model was. So now I've got my equation, and I can go ahead and start isolating the C so that I can find out what my cost is, because I want to get this by itself. So to do that, I need to get everything that's attached to the C term, get rid of it. So I need to get rid of this 30, and because there's nothing in front of it, this is really a positive 30. So to undo a positive 30, I'm going to subtract 30 from both sides. When I subtract 30, these go away, and I'm left with 1/3 C equals $265. Then I need to get rid of that 1/3. Remember, if I want to get rid of a denominator, I have to multiply by it, because this is really like saying 1 divided by 3. So if I multiply this side by 3, then I also have to multiply the other side by 3. And that's going to cancel out my 3's on the left, and leave me with C. And on the right, I have 265 times 3, which is $795. So the original model was $795. Now remember, you can always double check your work by taking this dollar amount here, that $795, and plugging it in for this C value, and you should end up with an answer of $295. Example 4 says, suppose your high school's basketball team scored 5 runs in Saturday's game. This was 4 more, so let's look at this. So we have 4 more than 1/2 the runs scored by the opposing team. How many runs did the opposing team score? So again, if we go back, your high school baseball team scored 5 runs. This is a total. Okay, so you can say 5 equals, I'm told that I have 4 more, so that tells me 4 plus 1/2 the runs of the opposing team. And I'm just going to use R for opposing, or for the runs of the opposing team. Now I want to get the R term by itself, so I need to undo this 4 here. So to undo a positive 4, I will subtract 4 from both sides. 5 minus 4 is going to give me 1. 4 minus 4, that's going to cancel, and I'm going to be left with 1/2 times R. Now I need to get R by itself. So I really have 1 divided by 2. I need to undo that 2 from the denominator and multiply both sides by 2. When I do that, my 1/2 and 2 are going to cancel. And 2 times 1 is 2 equals R. So I can see then that the opposing team had 2 runs. So if you would pause the video now and try to do this problem on your own, then check back to see how you did. Example 5 says, a library receives a large cash donation and uses the funds to double the number of books it owns. So we are doubling the number of books it owns. Then a book collector gives the library 4,028 books. After this, the library has 51,514 books. How many books did the library have before the cash donation? Okay, so again, I know that my total is 51,514 books, and that's going to be equal to, if I come up here, it says it's going to use the fund to double the number of books it owns. So to double something, that really means that you're going 2 times the number that you currently have. Then we're told that a book collector gave 4,000. So if somebody's giving you something, they are adding to your collection. So we have 4,028 books. Now what I have to do is I have to go about solving for my n. And again, I'm going to start out by subtracting the term that's attached to the 2n piece. So in this case, I'm going to undo addition with subtracting 4,028 from both sides. When I do that, I get 47,486 equals 2n, and this right here is going to cancel. So now I'm left with just solving for my n value, and I will do that by looking at my problem, say that this is really 2 times n. I undo multiplication with division. So if I divide both sides by 2, then that's going to leave me with n on the right side, and 47,486 divided by 2 is going to give me 23,743 books. And this right here then would be how many books this library started out with. And our final example is example 6. It says one cell phone plan costs $39.95 per month. The first 500 minutes of usage are free. Each minute thereafter costs 35 cents. Write a rule that describes the total monthly cost as a function of the number of minutes of usage over 500. Then find the number of minutes of usage over 500 minutes for a bill of $69.70. So the first thing we need to do is we need to come up with an equation. So it says that one cell phone plan costs $39.95 a month. So you are going to pay this cost, okay, whether you are on the phone for 0 minutes or 5,000 minutes. So we have to pay that $39.95, 0.95. Then it says the first 500 minutes of usage are free. Each minute after is going to cost 35 cents. So I've already got the cost of my monthly bill, which is $39.95. Then I'm going to add to that 35 cents for every minute after 500 minutes. So I don't know how many minutes I'm going to talk over 500. So I'm just going to use the variable m to represent the number of minutes. And I know that this equation is going to find my cost because I want to write a rule that describes the total monthly cost. Okay, so here is that. Then it says, find the number of minutes of usage over 500 minutes for a bill of $69.70. So this right here is my general rule or the equation that I could use. So if I wanted to find out what my bill would be if I talked 700 minutes or 1,000 minutes or no minutes, I could use this right here. However, if I want to know how many minutes I talk over 500 minutes and I'm given a specific dollar amount, I'm going to plug in my cost. So I know that my cost was $69.70, and that's going to equal my monthly bill of $39.95 plus 0.35 m, or 35 cents per minute. So now what I've got to do is I have to solve for m to see how many minutes over 500 that we talked. So I'm going to do that by getting rid of the $39.95. So I will subtract $39.95 from both sides. And when I do that, I see it's going to cancel right here. And I'm going to be left with $29.75, and that's going to be equal to 35 m. So again, my 0.35 is being multiplied by m. I want to get m by itself, so I will divide both sides by 0.35. And when I divide that, my 0.35s are going to cancel out here. And I see that when I take 29.75 and I divide it by 0.35, I end up with 85 minutes. Now, the problem said find the number of minutes of usage over 500 minutes. So I found out that I was 85 minutes over 500, or I talked for a total of 585 minutes. But it only wants to know how many beyond the 500 we talked. So that would be 85 minutes. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in class.